Yes, now you can speak.
Good morning, friends. I am going to introduce to you the proposed webinar of 6 lectures in which I will be talking to you about the relationship considerations. By relationship considerations, I mean that between any two persons, there is a certain relation. But more specifically, we would be talking about the relationship between the romantic relationship between the boy and the girl or the husband and wife and things of that kind. But some of the rules that we will develop to find out the suitability of a certain relationship, they may very easily be able to spill over to your other relationships, like in your profession, your business partner, or any other kind of teacher and taught and things like that. So we would establish some rules to see whether a certain relationship is going to go well or not. In that, the reason I've chosen this subject is that for any astrologer, I think overwhelmingly high number of questions come from this field, because either the people are trying to find their partners, then they want from you to figure out whether this partner is suitable for me or not, or else they come up with marriage problems and then they seek advice whether the case is right for divorce, should I not, etc., etc. So a very large number of questions that come to the astrologer are actually related to relationship issues. So that is what we are going to discuss. When we talk about general principles of astrology, practically everything is covered there also. But here we are going to focus on the entire system of, Rashi, houses, planets, nakshatras, Navamsha, etc., etc., from a specific point of view, and that is the relationship point of view. So I propose to talk about the importance of Lagna, which means there are 12 Lagnas. Do they experience similar marriages to each other, or do they inherently have a different feel for marriage? Like it is famous for Cancer Lagnas, that these people have very difficult marriage. And often the number of divorces are highest amongst people who have Cancer Lagna. So like that, what happens to other Lagnas? We are going to discuss that. And why does it happen? We would be talking about that. Just as importance of Lagna is there, so is the importance of moon. And which is even more so because moon is mind, and the two people connect through mind. So if their minds are working in tune with each other, the other things would all automatically get adjusted. So in some sense, moon is even more important than the Lagna. So what are the proclivities of different moons? By different moons, I mean which Rashi, which house, which nakshatra, which Navamsha, or even what D60 or what is D16 saying. So those kind of things I would be discussing when we would be talking about the importance of moon. Then, of course, we would be discussing the Karaka planet, that is Venus. I would devote more time on Venus rather than Jupiter, because in today's time, according to today's Deshkal and Patra, it seems that Venus has taken a lead in terms of being the Karaka for marriage. Once upon a time, when a woman thought that my husband is the Lord and Master of mine, the Pati Parmeshwar, at that time, maybe Jupiter was an appropriate karka for marriage for women, but not today so, because Venus centers around sexual relationship also. And we cannot say that in marriage that is an aspect that can be relegated to background. So it has to be a very important factor. And then we will also talk about some very special features of Venus which come from astronomy of Venus. Unless we bring that also into picture, we cannot understand the real nature of Venus. So we would be talking about the importance of Venus in various signs, various houses, and various nakshatras, Navamshas, etc. Then, importance of conjunctions of other planets with Venus. Venus is a kind of a touch me not planet. It is best when it is left alone, neither conjunction with any other planet nor aspected by any other planet, because then it is in its purest form. The moment it gets affected or influenced by right from Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, even Jupiter, etc., then Venus begins to behave differently. And often the problem doesn't lie with Venus as much as the planet that is influencing it. It has distorted the purity of Venus. If we can say that Venus is pure love in all its dimensions, then the aspecting planet pulls it into certain other direction. And whether that is happening in the D1 or D9 or in any other Varga chart, we would be dealing with that thoroughly. Then, of course, the Vargas. And if it comes to relationship issues, what is given in the Navamsha prevails. Often we don't find any problem in D1, but there are problems visible in D9. So what are those problems? What is the degree of or the intensity of those problems? So all that will have to be discussed, and we will make comparisons back and forth between D1 and D9 and between D9 and D1, and then various planets, most specifically the Venus or the seventh lord or the seventh house of Navamsha or the Navamsha Lagna itself. So what are the influences of all those things? What the classics say about it, and how much of that is applicable in today's time? All that we will be bringing into your notice. Then, of course, we would be discussing Rahu and Venus. There are a lot of similarities between Rahu and Venus, and there are a lot of dissimilarities also. It's famous amongst astrologers to pronounce that, well, your Rahu Dasha is coming, you will get married, which is quite true. I myself got married in Rahu. In fact, I got married in Rahu Venus. So, when is Rahu a karaka for marriage and when it is not? And when it is a karaka for marriage, what influences does it exert on the chart or on Venus or the seventh lord? So we would be discussing that. Then there is a very special role that Rahu and Ketu play in the whole chart. But we would discuss this more in terms of how does it influence Venus, how does it influence the Karakansha Lagna. I'm talking about the Rahu Ketu axis. How does it influence the Darapad? How does it influence the seventh pada and in Navamsha, etc., etc. So there is a whole lot of material which is not often discussed as to what is the contribution of Rahu or Ketu. When problems arise in marriage, and if Ketu is involved, we know that it is very difficult to solve those problems or get adjusted to those problems. So we will elaborate on those points. Then there is a very big issue, or at least the issue has been made big by the Mangal Dosha, the Kuj Dosha, and its cancellations. If you take the Kuj Dosha in its pure form, then it has a certain meaning. But if you also take the cancellations, when it does not apply, or when its intensity is reduced, or when it is completely uh, a planet which doesn't affect the marriage at all. So we will discuss all those things. And actually, it seems to me that Mangal or Mars have has been selected for a lot of blemish, as if all the blemish lies with Mars. That is not true. How about the other malefics? So I have developed a method which I would call a quantitative method of Mangal Dosha, of Mars's blemish. So in this quantitative method, I have included the effects of other malefics, including Mars, including Rahu and Ketu, including Saturn, and then come up with a figure. Because for Mangal Dosha, it is advised by all astrologers that if the Mangal Dosha exists in the chart of the girl and the boy both, then it's a kind of cancellation and you don't need to bother. So the only thing is that one has to take care that get only that girl and boy married who both have the Mangal Dosha. But is it sufficient to just go by the original definition of the cancellations? No. So I have devised a method in which we can figure out the quantum of the Kujadi doshas. So our formula would become that if the quantum of the two, the boy and the girl, of Mangal dosha or the Kujadi dosha, Kuja plus other things, if that is nearly equal, then the marriage is fine. But if there is a vast difference between the quantums of Mangal dosha, then the condition is not being satisfied for a good marriage. So we will discuss this and I will present that table to you. Then I'm going to talk about tips on matching. I know most of you know how to use Ashtakoota. And there are certain other basic things that everyone does. I might touch upon them, but I would also be presenting to you many other tips on matching. So by using those also, besides the fundamentals, you can be closer to the mark of saying the right things when a proposed marriage comes up for your consideration. And of course, we are going to talk about the role of Ashtakoota. How does Ashtakoota give you a hint about a successful marriage or a bad marriage or adjustable marriage or a non-adjustable marriage, irrevocably disturbed marriage and things like that. There is some strong hints that Ashtakoota gives and we must use that. Then for the Western audience and people who have sort of imbibed the Western culture, then we also have the big issue of relationships other than marriage. Second or the third or the fourth marriage, because if your wife was of a particular character, particular qualities, the second wife may not be like that. She may be a very different bird altogether. So we would discuss multiple marriages. And then we would also touch upon a subject which I have named as non-normative sexual behavior. What this means is that there are a lot of things that are going on in the Western world, especially, where the heterogeneous relationship between the man and the woman are not being followed. And there are so many other kinds of marriages, gay marriages, lesbian marriages, or simply live-in relationships between same sexes and things of that kind. Can we figure it out from the chart? So that should be an interesting discussion. And there is no definitive classical material available on this subject, probably because in those times this behavior was so very uncommon, or it was kept under wraps completely. So we'll touch upon that also. Then there is a whole lot of things which are in Gemini system. Gemini astrology treats a chart in a very different way. Though Gemini is also a part of Parashar, but the way it handles the chart is very different, and there are lots of gems which are embedded in the Gemini system. Like we can talk about Dharakara, Dharapada, Karakansh Lagna, or Pada Lagna, etc., etc. So we would be talking about that, and we would also be talking about how to handle a chart with padas. In fact, that's almost a separate class altogether as to how to handle a pada chart with respect to relationships. And here we can talk about relationships other than the romantic or other than the marriage relationships. Because padas throw tremendous insight into a chart, which is not visible in a bare chart. Just as one can say that without Navamsha, talking about relationship is too incomplete. I could also say that without bringing into picture the padalagnas, different padas, I mean, the Arud padas of different houses, unless you bring that into picture, you are not dealing with the relationship issues squarely. And then in the discussions, many other related topics would appear when we would be discussing example charts, and there would be plenty of them. Many questions would arise, theoretical questions, practical questions. We will try and sort them out, or I would be able to give you my opinions on that. So this is the outline of my webinars, which I intend to extend to 6 lectures. And if there are certain subjects which have not been given full consideration, because even 6 lectures aren't really sufficient, then we can pick up on those topics which have not received a full treatment. For them, we can take up other, single sessions or double sessions and things like that. So this is the scheme of things that I propose to do in the relationship webinars. Call them relationship webinar or call them love and marriage and sex webinar. Whatever is more spicy for you, please choose the name. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.